Good morning and Happy New Year. This is the first Oceans International Seminar of 2024. And we have a paper from Chemosphere, Microplastics in Aquaculture Systems, Occurrence, Ecological Threats and Control Strategies. And Alicia Low is the presenter of today's seminar. Alicia, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Sorry, I'm wearing a mask. I caught a cold, so to prevent my colleagues from getting sick as well. So if my voice is a bit muffled, please let me know. Like Jong-Soo explained earlier, today is the 505th International Seminar, Microplastics in Aquaculture Systems, Occurrence, Ecological Threats and Control Strategies. This paper was published in 2023. If you missed our previous discussion on microplastics in fisheries and aquaculture, published in 2007 with updated data from 2022, you can watch it here at our Ocean's YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is at Ocean8643. So you can have a look if you are interested. So I'll move straight to the paper today. Let me move this away. The abstract is, with the intensification of microplastic pollution globally, aquaculture environments also face risks of microplastic contamination through various pathways, such as plastic fishing gear. Compared to wild aquatic products, cultured aquatic products are more susceptible to microplastic exposure through fishing tackle, thus assessing the impacts of microplastics on farm species and human health. However, current research on microplastic pollution and its ecological effects in aquaculture environments still remain insufficient. So this article comprehensively summarizes the pollution characteristics and interrelationships of microplastics in aquaculture environments. The authors analyzed the influence of microplastics on the sustainable development of the aquaculture industry, then the potential hazards of microplastics on pond ecosystems and consumer health were elucidated. The strategies for removing microplastics in aquaculture environments were also discussed. And finally, an outlook on the current challenge and the promising opportunities in this area was proposed. So essentially, this paper aimed to evaluate the value of assessing microplastic pollution in aquaculture environments and provide guidance for the sustainable development of the aquaculture industry. This is the graphical abstract for this paper, talking about potential threats to human, the potential sources of microplastics, impacts on the function of aquaculture ecosystem, and microplastic release. So this is the extracts from the chapter 1 introduction. Fishing gear that is discarded, lost, or disposed of in aquaculture areas can decompose and create different types of microplastics. Also, pollution of the aquaculture environment and its impact on human health and the quality of aquaculture products should be promptly disclosed. So from all the other literature that was discussed in the introduction, the authors thought that it's necessary to investigate the distribution of microplastics in aquaculture environments and conduct potential risk assessments. Excuse me. This review systematically analyzes the presence of microplastic pollution in the aquaculture water bodies, sediment, and products, and then the degree of accumulation of microplastics in cultured products from different regions is analyzed and compared to that in the wild products, and then potential impacts of microplastics on pond ecosystems, products, and consumer health are reviewed, and then the strategy of removing microplastics in aquaculture environment is also proposed. So you might be wondering, what is this 2, 3, 4, 5? These are the following sections. So introduction is section 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5 accordingly. So now we'll move to section 2, pollution status of microplastics in aquaculture systems. So high density microplastics are more likely to settle in sediments, while lower density microplastics are typically distributed in water bodies at various depths. Long-term high-intensity aquaculture activities is enclosed or semi-enclosed, long-term high-intensity aquaculture activities in enclosed or semi-enclosed environments can result in a significant accumulation in microplastics in water bodies. So these are the literature that is discussed in this section. Some of them were in ponds, aquaculture bodies, seawater, and they were mostly on different species, such as crab, fish, biota, crayfish, etc. And some was carried out in different seasons, different months, and so forth. However, the authors actually left out one paper from this table, and that is by Song et al. 2023, who investigated microplastic pollution in water bodies across various aquaculture methods. So microplastic concentrations in inland water were 2.5 times higher than those in ocean model water. And then the next is occurrence of microplastics in sediments, specifically, sediment caused by high density waves, tides, and microbial colonization also contribute to the deposition of microplastics in sediment. And then from the offshore culture area to the estuarine culture area, the microplastic content in sediment gradually increased. And then out of all these papers, here is the summary of the summary. Jokere et al. Investigated distribution of microplastic in sediments from 35 sites in the Chilean Sea of Patagonia, while others were in natural marine culture areas, samples from rivers, ponds, offshore waters, nearshore sediments, and etc. And then here is some examples of how microplastic in sediment looks like. This paper is not included here, but if you are curious, you can have a look. It's by Kazmiruk et al. 2018. And then the next is occurrence of microplastic in aquaculture products. Generally, closed or semi-enclosed environments prevent the spread of microplastics, resulting in rapid increase in the concentration of microplastics in aquatic water. Factors such as level of microplastic pollution in water, the eating habits of aquatic animals, and the variations in individual traits may result in variations in microplastic residues in aquatic animals in both aquaculture systems and natural water bodies. So these are the only two papers that are inserted here, but the authors actually listed a lot more. You can have a look at the paper. And then the first one is by Ta et al., published in 2022. Their target study was microplastic content in the bodies of blood clams in aquaculture farms and sale markets. And they found that the microplastic content were higher in sales markets than in aquaculture farms. The second one was, microplastic content in mussels, which also showed that the concentration of microplastics in these mussels were higher from market products than from fishery research stations. And then MP content in bivalve samples were also much higher in the market samples as compared from samples from farms. And then the second one is by Lev et al., who carried out study on microplastic concentration in eels, loaches, and crayfish. And they found out that microplastic in water, soil, and animal samples increased from the non-rice stage to the rice planting stage. So there was a correlation between the abundance of microplastic in aquatic animals and that of farmland soil. So these are the sources of microplastics. You have to bear in me because this figure itself is very confusing. So the first one is here. The first source of microplastics is through plastic tools such as ALDFG, fishing nets or ropes, and etc. The second one of microplastic input is through the exchange of water bodies in closed aquaculture process, allowing microplastic to be transported from coastal bays to the open sea. The third one is through feed, which is plastic products used in water plant cultivation, seedling placement, feeding management, final harvesting, and etc. And then number 4 is atmospheric sedimentation and runoff, such as surface runoff or tire runoffs and so forth. Number 5 is through packaging, where microplastic were most abundant in polystyrene board and film group, but least in chitosan film, polystyrene board, and film group. And then the last one, the final one, is through the spread of pollutants along the food chain in aquaculture environments. Okay, this is the third chapter, which is impacts of microplastics on aquaculture systems. The impacts on aquaculture environment include vertical migration of microplastics that can lead to their widespread distribution from surface water to sediments, thereby disturbing and distributing the balance of ecosystems, as shown here, bottom here, which is by Choi et al. 2019. And then also another impact of aquaculture environment is through extensive use of antibiotics in aquaculture leads to an increase in the concentration of antibiotic-resistant genes in water and fish and bacteria and so forth. And then the final one is microplastics can also affect microbial communities and carbon neutral cycle, which may indirectly impact the production of aquaculture systems. And then the next one is through this figure, whereby the potential impact and ecological risk of microplastics on products in aquaculture environments can be through accumulation and retention of microplastics can lead to false food safety, causing blockage in the digestive system and resulting in structural and functional damage. But these problems are not just limited to feeding behavior, but it also reduces water filtration rates, affects reproductive systems, metabolism, and assimilation systems. And then all these pose a threat to the balance of aquatic ecosystems through the transmission of food chain. However, all these are not just for fish as shown here, but it's also for other marine wildlife like crustaceans, shellfish, and etc. And the next one is threats to food sustainability and safety. Impacts of microplastics and pollutants on the reproductive function of aquatic organisms result in a significant decrease in the population, which in turn affects the yield and quality of the products. Exposure to microplastic can lead to a decrease in swimming speed, travel distance, and movement mode of fish. And then the intensification of microplastic pollution in aquaculture environments pose a significant problem, posing a threat to food safety issues and affects sustainable development of fisheries. However, the actual impact of consuming microplastics or nanoplastic toward human health still remains unclear. And then the next is threats to human health. It is generally believed that the intake of microplastics can be reduced by removing the digestive tract and gills, which are not commonly consumed by humans from aquatic products. Unfortunately, for shellfish and small fish, they are typically consumed as a whole. So people worldwide consume an average of 0.1 to 5 grams of microplastic per week. Microplastic accumulation in fish varies significantly based on water depth, feeding habits, and diet. And it's also noted that omnivorous fish that inhabit the bottom have the highest intake of microplastic, while the intake of herbivores in the middle layer and upper layer is the lowest. Microplastics not only cause oxidative stress, inflammatory damage, and endogenous metabolic changes in cells, but also interact with the immune system of phytoplankton, such as the one below here. And then, as we all know, microplastic has also been detected in human blood, breast milk, and placenta of unborn babies. The next part is beware of aquaculture becoming a potential source of microplastics in natural water bodies. So this figure demonstrates effective control over the release and migration of microplastics in aquaculture environments. Firstly, is through source control, which is control of microplastic release through aquaculture, during aquaculture through the development of alternatives to plastic fishing gear. And then the second one is through intermediate control, which is control of external input of microplastics through limitations on feed and water sources. Deep water aquaculture can also reduce the contact between products and microplastics. And number three is through terminal control, which is the reduction of microplastics in aquaculture system effluent through constructed wetlands. And then Wang et al., their findings suggested that the rhizome part of the this plant here, I think it's called grass weed or something, I can't remember the name, plant can effectively capture microplastics in water. And then another, apart from this plant, another one is through mangroves that can maintain a stable state and mitigate microplastic pollution. The next one, I think is the final one, is through upgrading technology. First, the authors suggested continuous monitoring, which is through real-time monitoring and measuring of microplastic distribution in water bodies. And then the second one is remote sensing technology, which can also provide a reliable method for dynamic monitoring of microplastics in aquaculture environment. They suggested two, which is, the first one is space remote sensing technology. And the second one, which is quite interesting, is through a micro robot based on ion exchange to obtain self-propulsion for monitoring and removing micro or nanoplastics in water bodies. So if you see this figure here, this figure is from their paper. This purple color thing is the Magno robot. And then these pink ones are the micro or nanoplastic. So the authors propose that this thing will move by itself through ion exchange and it will automatically attract the micro and nanoplastics around it. You can have a look at their paper if you are curious. And then the final one is through reduction strategies, which is removing microplastics from aquaculture products before consumption is a pressing issue that needs immediate attention. And then microplastic removal before packaging and purification technology. And then establishment of standard methods for human health risk assessment through urgent need to establish connection between the intake of microplastics and the assessment of human health risks. And then finally, here are the additional readings. The first one is Tian et al. Is on, can we quantify the aquatic environmental plastic load from aquaculture? And then the other two was, as I mentioned earlier, the vertical distribution of biological transport of marine microplastics, and also the self-driven Magno tow robots for recyclable and scalable micro or nanoplastic removal. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. This is a kind of, this paper has a lot of contents. And thank you again. And we'll have discuss time. If you have any questions, opinions about aquaculture microplastics or the contents of this paper, please feel free to speak about your opinions. Any questions about this paper? Hello, Junko. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year and good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, yeah, if I may ask a question, I didn't quite understand the reason why there are more microplastic in the fish product in market compared to the aquaculture field. Is that those microplastic coming from packaging, or what is the reason behind there are more higher concentration found in the market product?
This paper says it may contaminate from packaging, right?
Packaging.
And Ellie?
And also because when they are moving, they are moved in plastic. So when from the farm, they take it and then they put in usually like plastic containers, and then they move from one plastic container to another plastic container. So the exposure to microplastic surface area is much higher compared to the where they were originally raised and aquaculture.
Okay, so it's important to pay attention to the packaging materials and reduce microplastic residues from those packaging. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ellie. Thank you for thank you, Ms. Junko.
Thank you.
Any other questions or opinions? And also we can talk about the microplastic contamination in aquaculture system.
First of all, this paper is a review, so not the original research result. So they only compiled the result related to aquaculture microplastic research. And at the mitigation strategy, they are focusing more on inland aquaculture system, like ponds. So we can understand that global aquaculture products are mainly from inland. Maybe more than half are from inland, especially in China. They are producing much more aquaculture product in inland ecosystem. So they are focusing that approach. But in Korea, I think marine aquaculture is more bigger bigger than inland aquaculture system. So our mitigation strategy can be prioritized in ocean and marine aquaculture area. And lastly, this is some technical thing, but in section 5, the beware of aquaculture becoming a potential source of microplastics in natural water body. They suggest control of external input of microplastics with a limitation on feed and water sources. They referred Jiahao Zhang et al. 2023 suggested that using plant protein feed is an effective strategy for mitigating microplastic pollution in fish. But I tried to find out the reason why they suggested this one, but I couldn't find how plant protein can contribute to reducing of microplastic in aquaculture. So this is, I think, the minor error or misunderstanding or misconception of authors.
Well, for my thought, this is it says, I thought plant feed means a plant feed has less microplastic, I thought, but we have checked.
Yeah.
Because it says a plant protein feed.
Yeah.
So here means plant means not animal feed, animal food. So plant has less microplastics. But we have to read the paper.
I've checked the paper from Jiahao Zhang et al., but he or she cited other paper from Zhou et al. But in Zhou et al.'s paper, no, Zhou Yangfei et al. But there was no that kind of discussion in their paper.
Dr.
Sunny?
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Sunny. Happy New Year to everyone. This paper was very interesting to me, and it has a lot of useful information. especially China is the #1 country in aquaculture products in the world. These Chinese research teams dealt with this issue directly, and it is a good approach to make people aware of this issue in national, not only in national and also global level. So I found many useful information from the paper. For example, aquaculture products can be directly related to the sustainability of human beings in the world in the future. Especially climate crisis affects the management of the aquaculture facilities and marine environment. So more and more aquaculture facilities can be directly destroyed by extreme weathers or climate aspects. And also we cannot survive without depending on seafood products. So it makes me think about more issue than only microplastic issue. Anyway, the little bit disappointing point from this paper is the authors didn't use our team's research result, because we've been trying to reduce microplastics and the impact of aquaculture gears, styrofoam especially. And there are many related articles, papers related to the aquaculture fishing gears and microplastic impact and pollution, but they didn't quote anything about that. So I'm a little bit curious about the integrity of this review paper. That's it from my side.
Yeah, it has a lot of small mistakes, like
Misleading messages.
but I think it's a lot of information. And do you have other questions or opinions? Then from my side, when I read this paper, I checked the data. I didn't check the original data, but the level. I'm wondering, the sediment microplastic contamination level is relatively low compared to our Korean result. So we have to check the surrounding or other site information. As for my knowledge or some background information, it should be higher. But I mean, I mentioned about the table 2, occurrence of microplastic in sediments. The paper says is that microplastic particles per kilogram or gram in dry weight sediment.
The
So
word completeness.
it's relatively low, so we have to check the data. And water level 2, so it's really in the pond it's high, but I mean the mariculture environment is relatively low than our result. So I was wondering. That's all. If you don't have any other questions and opinions, we will check the next seminar schedule and wrap up the seminar. Thank you for participating in this seminar. And thank you. Bye-bye.